I need you to stop what you're doing and listen to me carefully. Because if you clicked on this video, it's not an accident. You didn't find this by chance. Something guided you here, and I think you already know why. Something has been off. Maybe for a few days, maybe for a few weeks, maybe longer. You can't quite name it. It's not one big thing, it's 100 small things. You're tired, but you slept 8 hours. You're anxious, but nothing happened. You're irritable with people you love for no reason. You walk into a room and forget why you're there. You start a task and lose focus halfway through. Your body feels heavy, like you're moving through water instead of air. And the worst part is, you can't explain any of it. There's no logical reason for it. Your doctor says you're fine. Your blood work is normal. Nothing changed in your life. But something changed in your energy. And that's why you're here.
My name is Celine. I'm 50 years old. I've been reading energy for over 20 years. I've worked with over 8,000 clients, and I can tell you right now that what you're experiencing has a name. It's called energetic interference. In plain language, someone in your life, someone you see regularly, someone you talk to, someone you trust, is sending you negative energy, and they might not even know they're doing it. Let me explain how this works because most people misunderstand it completely. When I say someone is sending you negative energy, I don't mean they're sitting in a dark room with candles chanting your name. I don't mean they hired someone to put a curse on you. I don't mean anything dramatic or cinematic or anything you'd see in a horror movie. That's not how it works. That's almost never how it works. Negative energy transfer is much quieter than that, much more ordinary. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. It hides inside normal, everyday interactions. It hides inside a phone call with your sister, a coffee with your coworker, a conversation with your neighbor, a text from your ex. It hides inside relationships that look perfectly fine on the surface but are slowly, invisibly draining the life out of you one interaction at a time. Here's what's actually happening. Every person you interact with is an energy exchange. Every single one. When you talk to someone, when you sit near someone, when you even think about someone, energy moves between you. In a healthy relationship, that exchange is balanced. You give, they give. You feel good after seeing them, they feel good after seeing you. The energy flows both ways and both people walk away feeling the same or better than before. But in certain relationships, the exchange is one-directional. You give and they take. Every time. You walk away from them feeling drained, foggy, irritated, sad, or anxious. And you can't figure out why because the conversation seemed perfectly normal. Nothing bad was said. Nothing obvious happened, but something was taken from you, something you can't name but you can feel in your body for hours afterward, sometimes days. That's energetic interference. That's what it looks like in real life. Not curses, not spells, not black magic. Just a person in your orbit who is pulling energy from you faster than you can replenish it. And most of the time, they have no idea they're doing it. They're not evil. They're not intentionally hurting you. They're just empty. And empty people pull from whoever is closest. I had a client named Rosa. She came to me about 2 years ago. 51 years old, worked as an office manager at a dental practice. Good job, steady income, nice family, nothing wrong on paper. But she was falling apart. She couldn't sleep. She'd gained 20 pounds in 6 months without changing her diet. She was snapping at her husband over nothing. She told me she felt like she was disappearing, like every day a little more of her was being erased and replaced with something gray and flat and heavy. Her doctor gave her antidepressants. Her therapist said it was probably perimenopause. Her husband said she needed a vacation. Nobody could figure out what was wrong because they were all looking in the wrong place. They were looking at Rosa. The problem wasn't Rosa. The problem was sitting in the cubicle next to her 5 days a week. When Rosa sat down across from me, I felt it immediately. Her energy was shredded. That's the word that came to me. Not blocked, not low, not dark. Shredded. Like someone had taken her energy field and ripped it into strips. I'd never felt anything quite like it. And wrapped around those shredded edges was someone else's energy. Someone close to her. Someone she saw almost every day. It was tangled into her like vines growing through a fence. I asked her, "Who did you start spending more time with about 6 months ago?" Because that's when her symptoms started, and I knew that wasn't a coincidence. She thought about it and said, "My coworker Diane. She transferred to our office in March." 6 months exactly. I asked her to describe Diane, and as she talked, I could feel the energy shift in the room. Rosa said Diane was lovely, funny, warm, always bringing in coffee for everyone, always asking how Rosa's kids were, always wanting to have lunch together. They'd become close quickly. Diane told Rosa about her divorce, her financial problems, her sick mother, her custody battle. She told Rosa everything, and Rosa listened, every day, every lunch break, every car ride to the parking lot. Rosa absorbed all of it because that's who Rosa was, a listener, a helper, a person who holds space for other people's pain without thinking about what it costs her. And it was costing her everything. Diane wasn't a bad person. I want to be clear about that. She wasn't manipulating Rosa on purpose. She wasn't scheming. She was drowning. She was in the worst period of her life, and she latched onto the nearest source of warmth and stability, which happened to be Rosa. And she drank from that source every single day without ever putting anything back. She took Rosa's energy the way a drowning person grabs the arm of whoever is closest, not out of cruelty but out of desperation. And Rosa was going under with her. That's how it works. The person draining you is almost never a villain. They're almost always someone in pain, someone who needs more than they can generate on their own, someone whose emotional cup is so empty that they unconsciously siphon from everyone around them just to get through the day. And the people they drain the fastest are always the same type, the helpers, the listeners, the empaths, the ones who say I'm fine when they're not fine because they're too busy making sure everyone else is fine first. If that sounds like you, keep listening. I told Rosa what I saw. She didn't want to believe me. She said Diane was her friend. She said Diane needed her. She said she couldn't just abandon someone who was going through a divorce and a custody battle and a sick mother. And I understood that. I told her I wasn't asking her to abandon Diane. I was asking her to notice what every single interaction with Diane was costing her. I asked her to pay attention, really pay attention, to how she felt before a lunch with Diane and how she felt after. Just notice, that's all. She came back 2 weeks later and she was shaking. She said I was right. She'd started tracking it. Every single time she spent more than 20 minutes with Diane, she felt like someone had unplugged her from a wall. Her vision would get slightly blurry. Her thoughts would slow down. She'd get home and lie on the couch and not move for 2 hours. She said it was like someone was scooping her out from the inside with a spoon. She'd just never connected it to a specific person before. She thought it was her age, her hormones, her diet. It was Diane. It was Diane every single time. Let me tell you about another case because I want you to see how different this can look. Not every energy drain comes from a coworker or a friend. Sometimes it comes from someone much closer. Sometimes it comes from the person you love most. A man named Carlos came to me about 3 years ago. 38 years old, construction worker, built like a wall. The last person you'd expect to see sitting in a psychic's chair. His girlfriend made the appointment. He almost didn't come. But he was desperate because something was happening to him that he couldn't explain. Carlos had always been strong, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically strong. The guy who never got sick, never got tired, never got rattled. He was the rock in his family, the one everyone leaned on, the one who showed up first and left last. That was his identity. That was who he was. But over the past year, he'd started breaking down. Migraines every week, insomnia, panic attacks. And this was a man who didn't even know what a panic attack was until he had one in the middle of a job site and thought he was having a heart attack. He went to the ER twice. Both times they sent him home and said nothing was wrong. His body was fine, but his energy was being eaten alive. When I read him, I found the source in about 30 seconds. It was his mother. His mother had been living with him and his girlfriend for 2 years. She was 71, recently widowed, and consumed by grief and bitterness. She hadn't processed her husband's death. She hadn't grieved properly. Instead, she'd moved into her son's house and wrapped herself around his energy like a blanket. Every morning she woke up heavy with grief and anger and fear, and every morning Carlos absorbed it. Not by choice, not by conversation, just by proximity, just by being in the same house. Energy doesn't need words to transfer. It moves through walls. Carlos felt guilty even hearing this, because it was his mother. How do you set an energetic boundary with your mother? How do you tell the woman who raised you that her presence is destroying you? You don't, right? You just take it. You just absorb it. You just let yourself get smaller and sicker and more exhausted because the alternative feels like betrayal. That's the trap. That's exactly the trap. Negative energy transfer thrives on guilt. It thrives on obligation. It thrives on the belief that setting a boundary with someone you love makes you a bad person. It hides behind duty and loyalty and family and love, and it uses those beautiful things as camouflage while it drains you dry. Carlos eventually found a small apartment for his mother 3 blocks away. Not across town, 3 blocks. Close enough to visit every day, far enough to sleep in a house that wasn't soaked in someone else's grief. His mother was hurt at first. She didn't understand. She said he was abandoning her. That word almost broke him, but he did it anyway. And within a month, the migraine stopped. Within 2 months, he was sleeping through the night for the first time in 2 years. Within 3 months, his girlfriend said she had her partner back. He wasn't abandoning his mother. He was saving himself. And the truth is, the distance was better for her too. She started going to a grief support group. She started cooking again. She started calling friends she hadn't spoken to in years. When she couldn't lean on Carlos's energy anymore, she had to find her own. And she did. She just never would have done it as long as his was available. So how do you block it? That's why you're here. You didn't click on this video to hear me describe the problem. You already know the problem. You've been living inside the problem. You want to know how to make it stop. I'm going to give you 3 things that work. Not theory, not crystals and sage and positive affirmations. Things I've given to clients for 20 years that actually, measurably change the energy dynamic. These aren't magic. They're boundaries. But they work like magic because most people have never tried them. The first thing is identification. You have to know who it is. You probably already do. When I describe the symptoms, the fatigue, the fog, the anxiety after certain interactions, the feeling of being drained, a face popped into your head. You might have pushed it away because it's someone you love, or someone you feel obligated to, or someone you'd feel guilty naming. But the face came. That's your answer. Your energy already told you who it is. Trust it. Write the name down if you have to. Say it out loud. Because just like money blocks, energy drains lose power the moment you name them specifically. The second thing is what I call the energetic cut. After every interaction with that person, I want you to do something physical. It sounds simple, but it works. The moment you leave their presence, the moment you hang up the phone, the moment you walk away from lunch, the moment you close the door, I want you to take 3 slow breaths, and on each exhale, physically brush your hands down your arms, your chest, and your stomach, like you're brushing dust off yourself. You're not performing a ritual. You're telling your energy field to release what doesn't belong to you. You're drawing a line between their energy and yours. Your body understands physical signals. When you physically brush their energy off, your field responds. I've had clients tell me they felt the difference after the first time they did this. The heaviness lifts, the fog clears, the anxiety dissolves. Not permanently, not from one time, but enough to prove that the connection between you and that person is the source of what you've been feeling. The third thing is the hardest one, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You have to reduce contact. I know you don't want to hear that. I know the person draining you is your mother, your sister, your best friend, your coworker you sit next to 8 hours a day. I know you can't just cut them out. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to reduce. Less time on the phone, shorter lunches, fewer personal conversations, more physical distance when possible. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to have a confrontation. You don't have to say, "You're draining my energy." You just pull back, quietly, gradually, firmly, and you watch what happens. What happens is this. You start to feel like yourself again. The fatigue lifts, the fog clears, the weight comes off. Literally, I've seen it happen. The insomnia stops, the anxiety fades, the irritability with the people you love dissolves, because it was never yours. None of it was yours. It was theirs. You were just carrying it because nobody taught you that you're allowed to put it down. I want to talk directly to the person watching this who already knows exactly who I'm talking about. You've known for a while, maybe months, maybe years. Every time you see that person's name on your phone, your stomach drops. Every time you leave a conversation with them, you feel like you need to sleep for 3 hours. Every time they tell you their problems, you absorb them into your body like a sponge, and then you spend the rest of the day wringing yourself out. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're not imagining it. You are an energetically open person in a relationship with someone who takes more than they give, and the imbalance has been slowly, quietly destroying your health, your mood, your sleep, your relationships, and your sense of self for longer than you realize. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to step back from someone without hating them. You are allowed to love someone from a distance if loving them up close is killing you. That's not selfish. That's survival. And there is nothing more important than your energy. Because your energy is your life. It's your health, your clarity, your joy, your ability to show up for the people who actually fill you up instead of drain you dry. Protect it, starting today. Name the person, do the cut, pull back, and watch how fast you come back to yourself. Because you're still in there, under all that weight that isn't yours. The real you is still in there, waiting, patient, ready. I'm Celine. Your energy doesn't lie, and neither do I.